Anuradha, would like to thank all of you for subscribing to our channels, the YouTube and the Spotify channel. We are going to talk about a very beautiful topic today, something that all of us have a lot of, in our minds, we have a lot of different thoughts or confusions. The Dushthanas. The Dushthanas are said to be the difficult houses 3, 6, 8, 12. Traditionally and technically, it can just be 6, 8, and 12, but the third house is also at times, and especially in the Prashna Tantra, Prashna Marga, it has been taken as a Dushtana. IRJ also would, in the divisional chart, always take third lord as the Dushtana also, third house also. The third house may not be that bad a place, but the third lord is said to be a little difficult. Why? Because the third lord gives courage. It can be reckless. Mercury, the third lord of the natural zodiac, is said to be a very fast and a very quick planet. So when we are taking decisions which are represented by the third house, we can be very quick in taking them. Thus, we can be reckless at times. Mars, who is supposed to be the Karaka of the third house, is a planet of action. And in the third house, it becomes very bold, and so much so that it can be very reckless in taking an action. So the third house is kind of a dicey place for being extremely active at that point. So we need to be very balanced. We need to control that energy, divert it, so that when we are taking it, the third house is good for Jupiter to be in, because it gives you an ability to think properly. However, if there's Rahu, which gets exalted in the third house of the natural zodiac, as per many classics, that can give you an unsurmounted amount of energy and the ability to do things which may be different, but at the same time, this Rahu can make you very, very quick in actions, very reactive, very sudden in your approach. That can be detrimental for you. So the third house, which is also supposed to be a Dushtana by many classics, talks about the fact that you need to be very careful about your thought process or your action taking abilities. Don't be very reckless about it. Traditionally, when we come to it, the sixth house, and then the eighth house and the 12th house. The third house, as I told you, talks about your courage. The courage to do things, and why it can be problematic is also we have seen. When we talk about the sixth house is also the power. It also means the money. Sixth house is, and when we talk about the benefics in 6, 8, 12 also can have low power, but as per many classics, Jupiter in the sixth house, Mercury in the eighth house, and Venus in the 12th house is good. We've made videos on that also, and the reasons are very logical, because Jupiter gives you wisdom. Sixth house gives you discretion. When you use your wisdom with discretion, and Jupiter is also protection, it is your guru. It is also a lawyer. When you are in a problem, as sixth house denotes obstacles, it denotes your enemies. So when you are in a problem, when you have enemies, and you use your discretion and your power to the best of your ability, in such a case, you know how to come out of it. But this very same Jupiter here in the sixth house can give you one fondness for food. It can give you the diabetic issues also, and it can also give you a problem with food retention, because you eat too much, and so your stomach issues can be very paramount with Jupiter in the sixth house. When we talk about the sixth house, if Mars is placed in the sixth house, it gives you a fighting spirit. But how long would you be fighting? And sixth Mars will also be aspecting the Lagna. So it can make you work very much. It can make you very energetic. As a result, there can be burnouts for you. And sixth house also talks about accidents. So Mars in the sixth house can give you accidents also. When we talk about the Venus gets debilitated in the 6th house of the natural zodiac. Such a Venus can also give you hormonal issues. It is good for your intelligence. It is good for your creativity. But this Venus can give you problems. We need to understand that every house will have both the good and the bad. So just putting Dusthana as only the bad doesn't work. But yes, the effects of the bad cannot be ignored and they have to be worked with. The 3, 6, 8, and 12 have more, because we're living in the materialistic world, will have more of the bad effects, so as to say, than the good effects for the materialistic world, because the 6th house is also the house of Prarabdha, and we have already worked on that again in another video. The 8th house. So let's talk about the 8th house. The 8th house as such is the house of your intelligence. It talks about the way you are showing your bhakti or your longevity. And if we need to talk about the longevity of a person, then we need to check the 8th house. Well, the 8th house may it's again a house which is secluded, and house where we do things, or the things related to the house are done in behind closed doors, not shown to everybody, be it bhakti or be it bhukti. Bhakti means your devotion to God. For those who are true devotees, they generally do not expose their feelings, their associations or experiences to the world at large. Similarly, the ability to enjoy a happy married life, the physical side of it is not put forward in front of others. So that is again a zone where you do not know how to hide, and yet you do not want to expose it to everybody else. Now, if there is a malefic planet, Mars, in the 6th house, yes, in the 8th house, it causes Manglik dosh, a very strong one at that. At the same time, this Mars is capable of creating major issues in marital life, is capable of destroying the marital life, and this Mars at one point can also cause the death. So that we have to take into account a number of factors, but that should be the last thing that we predict from such a Mars. Saturn here is being the Karaka of the 8th house. It is a planet that will give you longevity. But Saturn, when it gives you longevity from the 8th house, will also take its fair share of toll. This Saturn can give you an illness that is long drawn and can give you suffering, because Saturn is also known to give you suffering which is again long drawn, and it is very, very painful and a death-like experience. Finally, we come to Mercury. Mercury, as Uttar Pranamrut and other classics state, is a planet that is good, supposed to be good in that 8th house. And I do agree with that, because if we have one of the combinations for a good astrologer is Sun and Mercury in the 8th house, or in the 8th house of the natural zodiac. So if you have a Mercury sitting there in your 8th house, it makes you good in occult. It makes you it gives you an ability to have a great instinct, and also to connect with, gives you a sense of reading, studying, trying to unearth, find out, and gather a lot of information and knowledge related to occult. So this Mercury is good for those who are willing to study hard and go further. But Mercury is also nervous issues like Alzheimer's and all these things, and even those which have people who have nervous issues relating to the hand shaking and things, they go a long way. They need a lot of big treatment. So this Mercury can also give you a long-term illness with those things. It can give you varicose veins also if there is an involvement of Mars in such a case. And now let us move to the 12th house. The 12th house is not a bad place either. But are we talking in terms of occult, or are we talking in terms of materialism? Because if you're talking in terms of materialism, Venus is said to be a good planet in the 12th house. It gives you a happy conjugal life. But let's not forget, Venus is also a Maraka. So it can cause marka issues. It can also give you a habit to spend excessively, which again is detrimental. Jupiter in the 12th house can cut you off from a lot of world, can take you directly into the Adhyatma, and that can be detrimental for people living in the material world. You wouldn't know where to move. You wouldn't know whether you have to exit or you have to stay back. So Saturn in the 12th house can give you an early exit. All these things we need to understand that the Dushtanas are not totally black, they are shades of gray. And if we can understand that these shades of gray, the 12th house being the moksha house again, is what we are aspiring for, then we can do well. Set your mind into what you want to get from these houses, and they will deliver you just that. But we need to be aware of the consequences. Till we meet with you again, stay safe and do write in your views about this video and the others that you visit.
Please
Thank
hit
you
the
so
bell
much.
icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.